Chosen one, this message is not entering your life by coincidence, timing, or accident. If you are hearing these words, it is because heaven itself pulled your spirit into this exact moment with surgical intention. Something shifted recently, didn't it? A heaviness in your chest. A sudden pause in your thoughts. A cold stillness in prayer that made the air feel different. That wasn't fear. That wasn't confusion. That wasn't overthinking. That was God. The same God who covered you when people plotted against you. The same God who opened doors you didn't knock on. The same God who delivered you from situations designed to break you. And yet, for the first time in a long time, his tone changed. His presence felt heavier, sharper, more deliberate. You didn't imagine it. Heaven confronted you. God said, "You betrayed me." Not because you became evil. Not because you turned into someone wicked. Not because you suddenly stopped being chosen. But because there was a moment, quiet, subtle, private, where your loyalty shifted. A thought you let linger too long. A conversation you allowed when he warned you to walk away. A temptation you entertained thinking no one saw. A door he closed that you tried to reopen. A wound he healed that you scratched again. In that single moment, your spirit reached back towards something he saved you from, and heaven felt the crack. The betrayal wasn't loud. It wasn't public. It wasn't dramatic. It was internal, invisible. A tiny shift in direction, but tiny shifts change entire destinies. And because you are chosen, because your calling carries weight, because your future influences more than just you, God could not stay silent. His correction is not punishment, it is rescue. His sharpness is not rejection, it is protection. God said, "You betrayed me," not to shame you, but to stop you before the wrong path became your identity, before the wrong voice became your truth, before the wrong desire became your direction. This is heaven stepping in with fierce mercy, saying, "I will not let you ruin what I built in you." As the key force in this war, your mission is to rise to the level of the first of the chosen ones, the rank that elevates you, sharpens your perception, and allows you to see every conspiracy from 10 steps away. Now click the join button and stand with the first of the chosen. God did not speak these words lightly. When heaven says, "You betrayed me," it means something in your spirit drifted into territory you were never meant to walk through again. Maybe it was a voice you let back into your life, a voice he already removed. Maybe it was a habit you told God you were done with, but secretly kept alive in the shadows. Maybe it was a thought you fed in loneliness, or a feeling you justified in weakness, or a connection you entertained out of comfort instead of calling. And even though nobody else saw it, heaven saw it clearly. Heaven felt the shift. Heaven registered the contradiction between who you say you are and what you quietly allowed. But hear this with your whole soul. God is not calling you a traitor. He is calling out the piece of darkness that tried to disguise itself as comfort. The betrayal he felt wasn't your identity. It was your agreement with something beneath your destiny. Something small. Something subtle. Something dangerous. You know exactly the moment it happened. That instant your spirit hesitated. That moment your heart felt heavy. That inner alarm you tried to silence. That uneasy feeling you brushed off as, "I'm tired, I'm emotional, I'm overthinking." But it wasn't any of those. It was God saying, "Stop. Don't do this. Don't go back. Don't let this in." And when you ignored that whisper, when you fed that thought, when you opened that door even a little, heaven said, "No. This cannot continue." This correction is not anger. It's intervention. It's God stepping in because what you entertained in minutes could have cost you years. What you justified in a moment could have derailed your calling. What felt harmless to you was a spiritual trap designed to drain you, distract you, and distort you. And because you are chosen, because you carry a destiny hell has been trying to interrupt since childhood, God is refusing to let one wrong turn rewrite your identity. "You betrayed me" was not the verdict, it was the wake-up call. Heaven is not pushing you away. Heaven is pulling you back. Chosen one, when God says, "You betrayed me," He is not pointing at the action, He is pointing at the danger behind it. Heaven never sounds this urgent unless something in your spirit was inches away from collapse. Understand this clearly. This correction came because you were stepping toward a version of life that would have destroyed the very things you've been praying for. You didn't see the trap forming, but God did. You didn't recognize the spiritual cost, but heaven counted it. You didn't feel the long-term consequences, but God felt them pressing against your destiny. What felt harmless to you was harmful to everything connected to your calling. A small compromise in identity. A subtle return to an old pattern. A quiet agreement with a lie you thought you outgrew. A moment of emotion that overpowered your discernment. And God said, "No," with a fierceness that shook your spirit. Not because He is disappointed in you, but because you were drifting towards something that would have stolen your clarity, dimmed your anointing, and weakened your sensitivity to His voice. People don't understand this level of correction because they don't live at your level of destiny. They don't know the weight you carry. They don't know the spiritual reach of your future. They don't know why heaven guards you this aggressively. But God does. And He saw you about to hand your power back to something He freed you from. That's why He confronted you. That's why His presence felt heavier. That's why your spirit froze. That's why your thoughts got interrupted mid-sentence. Because what you were about to allow would have altered your direction silently, slowly, subtly, until one day you woke up far from where He was trying to take you. God couldn't let that happen. Not to you. Not after everything He invested in you. Not after everything He pulled you out of. Not after every attack you survived. Not after every battle hell lost. So He stopped you. Not to punish you, to preserve you. "You betrayed me" wasn't rejection. It was redirection. A divine intervention to keep you aligned with the destiny you were born to walk into. Heaven does not react to your actions alone. Heaven responds to the intentions beneath them. That's why this correction hit differently. Because the betrayal God felt wasn't something you did, it was something you considered. A silent agreement. A hidden desire. A thought you let stay instead of dismissing. A feeling you entertained instead of rebuking. A compromise you almost allowed. Identity is not stolen loudly. Identity is stolen quietly. And heaven felt the exact second your heart leaned in the wrong direction. You didn't fall, but you leaned. You didn't sin, but you stepped toward the edge. You didn't give in, but you cracked open a door that hell has been waiting years to slip through. This is why God's tone was sharp. Because chosen people don't get to play with things others can survive. Your calling is too strong. Your spirit is too sensitive. Your destiny is too large. Your future is too costly. So what others can get away with, you cannot. What others can entertain harmlessly will poison you. What others can return to casually will destroy you. You carry too much spiritual weight to move carelessly. God did not correct you out of anger. He corrected you out of awareness. Awareness of the trap set against you. Awareness of the timing on your life. Awareness of the spiritual warfare happening behind your decisions. Awareness of how close you were to stepping into a cycle that would have taken years to recover from. Let this sink in deeply. The betrayal God confronted wasn't a full rebellion. It was the beginning of drift. And drift is more dangerous than collapse because you don't notice it happening. So heaven made you notice. The heaviness you felt. The sudden anxiety. The unexplained pressure. The sleep that felt wrong. The prayer that felt blocked. The conviction that felt sharp. That wasn't random. That was God slamming a spiritual door shut before your heart wandered too far through it. Because you are chosen, and chosen people don't get to lose themselves quietly. Heaven will interrupt your drift every time. Not to shame you, to save you. The reason this correction struck you so deeply is because you know exactly what God was pointing at. There was something, a voice, a memory, a desire, a temptation, a distraction, a person, a pattern, that slipped past your discernment for just one moment. And that single moment was enough for heaven to step in. Because God saw what began forming inside you the second you let that thing sit in your spirit. He saw how your energy shifted. He saw how your thoughts got heavier. He saw how your mood dimmed. He saw how your clarity thinned. He saw how your discernment lowered. He saw how your heart leaned towards something beneath your destiny. You didn't fall, but you opened a window. You didn't surrender, but you cracked the gate. You didn't choose darkness, but you let it stand too close. That is what God confronted. Not a dramatic sin. Not a catastrophic failure. Not a moral collapse. What you allowed was the beginning of a spiritual infection. A seed that would have grown into something destructive. A whisper that would have grown into a lie. A feeling that would have grown into bondage. God saw the chain while it was still just a thread. And because He loves you violently, fiercely, jealously, He pulled you back before the thread became a noose. People don't understand this level of divine correction because they do not understand the level of destiny on your life. You are not normal. Your spirit cannot handle what others tolerate. Your anointing rejects what others casually embrace. Heaven protects you at a level that confuses the ordinary because you are not ordinary. God corrected you because your spirit began absorbing something that wasn't meant to live inside you. The betrayal He felt wasn't you choosing darkness. It was you giving darkness a place to sit. A thought you should have commanded to leave. A memory you should have refused to revisit. A person you should have blocked permanently. A feeling you should have surrendered immediately. And God said, "No, I won't let that grow. I won't let that reshape you. I won't let that rewrite who you are." This is not divine disappointment. This is divine damage control. Heaven is extracting a poison before it spreads. Heaven is pulling you out before you fall in. Heaven is cleansing what you allowed in weakness. Heaven is shutting what you cracked open. You didn't betray God with your whole self, but a small part of you drifted. And God refuses to lose even a fraction of you. We need your help, and only you can do it. This help will come back to you 20 times over. Now click the Super Thanks button and send us $100 Super Thanks. Chosen one. The reason heaven responded so aggressively is because the betrayal God felt wasn't about morality. It was about trajectory. Your life is sitting on a spiritual fault line right now. One small shift in the wrong direction would not have ruined your week. It would have rerouted your entire destiny. That's why God's voice felt heavy, sharp, immediate. Because the thing you entertained, the mindset you allowed, the connection you reconsidered, the door you reached for, it wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. Dangerous to your calling. dangerous to your clarity, dangerous to your elevation. You are closer to breakthrough than you realize. You are inches from a season shift. You are standing at the threshold of something heaven has been preparing you for silently, slowly, carefully. And hell knows it. That's why the attack came in softness, not violence. Not in a storm, but in a whisper. Not in chaos, but in comfort. Temptation never shows up looking like destruction. It shows up looking like relief. And heaven saw you reaching for something that would have cost you everything you've survived to reach. God was not accusing you. He was intercepting you. Stopping a mistake before it matured. Stopping a thought before it became identity. Stopping an emotion before it became a decision. Stopping a distraction before it became bondage. This is the kind of correction only chosen people experience. God doesn't talk to everyone like this. He doesn't intervene like this in every life. But your destiny carries weight. Your name carries assignment. Your future carries responsibility. And because of that, heaven refuses to let you drift even an inch off course. Others can play with danger. You cannot. Others can revisit their past. You cannot. Others can entertain old voices. You cannot. Others can flirt with destruction. You cannot. You are called, marked, sealed, protected. And because of that, God will confront you the moment your heart even leans toward a path beneath your anointing. You betrayed me wasn't condemnation, it was calibration. A brutal, merciful, divine realignment. Heaven shouting, get back in position. Your future is too big to lose over something so small. The truth you don't want to admit, but your spirit already knows, is this. The thing God confronted was something He already removed from your life once. A person He separated you from. A habit He delivered you from. A mindset He healed you from. A cycle He broke for you. A temptation He pulled you out of. And yet, in a moment of weakness, exhaustion, loneliness, or confusion, you reached for the handle of a door God Himself closed. That's why heaven reacted so fiercely. That's why His tone felt different. That's why your spirit froze. Because you were about to walk back into something He pulled you out of with blood, with miracles, with protection, with intervention. You didn't betray God by becoming sinful. You betrayed His investment in you. You betrayed the healing He gave you. You betrayed the deliverance He fought for. You betrayed the version of you He's trying to resurrect. Do you understand the weight of that? God closed certain doors because they were killing you. God ended certain connections because they were draining you. God stripped certain things from your hands because they were poisoning your purpose. And when you reached back toward that door, even for a moment, heaven shook. Because opening that door again wouldn't have just hurt you. It would have undone years of spiritual growth. You think you were strong enough to manage it this time. But God saw the spiritual consequences. He saw the heartbreak waiting on the other side. He saw the confusion. He saw the backsliding. He saw the cycle restarting. He saw the energy drain. He saw the deception reforming. He saw the destiny delay. And He said, "No, I love you too much to let you ruin what I rebuilt." The betrayal wasn't you choosing darkness. It was you choosing familiarity over elevation. And heaven will always protect you from what you think you want when it contradicts what you were born to become. You weren't being punished. You were being intercepted. God didn't say, "You betrayed me," because He is done with you. He said it because you were getting ready to betray your future. And He refused to let that happen. Chosen one, heaven didn't confront you because of what you did externally. Heaven confronted you because of what you started believing internally. Somewhere in the quiet moments, somewhere in the exhaustion, somewhere in the emotional fog, a lie slipped into your mind and you treated it like truth. A lie about your worth. A lie about your identity. A lie about your future. A lie about your strength. a lie about your calling. And that lie began shaping your decisions without you realizing it. That's what God stopped. Not the action, the lie beneath it. Because betrayal doesn't begin with behavior. Betrayal begins with belief. You started believing you were weaker than you are. You started believing you were unprotected. You started believing you were alone. You started believing you were failing. You started believing your past still defined you. You started believing your mistakes disqualified you. You started believing darkness still had access to you. You started believing you needed something God already delivered you from. You started believing a counterfeit version of yourself, and heaven could not allow that to take root. God said, "You betrayed me because you betrayed the identity He placed inside you. You lowered your value to match a season you already outgrew. You dimmed your light to fit a room you no longer belong in. You shrank your power because you forgot who backed you. You reached for something beneath you because you temporarily forgot the level you were born to operate at. God is not angry with you. He is angry at the lie that touched you. He is angry at the wound that distorted your perception. He is angry at the spirit that whispered against your destiny. He is angry at the assignment sent to confuse your purpose. And He is ripping that lie out before it rewrites your entire identity. This is why the correction was sharp. This is why His tone shook your spirit. This is why your heart dropped when you felt His presence. Because He wasn't addressing your mistake, He was rescuing your identity from the enemy's hands. And He will fight violently for you when you don't fight for yourself. You didn't betray God intentionally, but you betrayed who God says you are. And He refuses to let you live beneath your calling another day. Chosen one, heaven didn't thunder that sentence over your spirit because you're evil, wicked, or rebellious. No, God said, "You betrayed me because you walked back towards something He tore you away from. Something He delivered you from. Something He burned out of your path. Something He collapsed so you could rise. Something that was never meant to survive the next chapter of your life. You didn't run back to sin. You ran back to familiarity. You ran back to comfort. You ran back to old wounds that once defined you. You reached for an old version of yourself because the new version felt too unfamiliar, too heavy, too costly, too exposed. You thought you missed a person, but you were missing a pattern. You thought you missed a season, but you were missing a numbness. You thought you missed a connection, but you were missing a dysfunction that once felt like home. And heaven saw you stepping toward a past that could not carry your destiny. That's why He stopped you. That's why He confronted you. That's why He said, "You betrayed me," because walking back to what He rescued you from is a betrayal of the rescue itself. God said it with urgency because He already knows how that path ends. He saw the heartbreak you forgot. He saw the trap you didn't notice. He saw the spiritual cost you couldn't calculate. He saw the hands that once drained you waiting to drain you again. He saw the cycle preparing to wrap around your ankles like chains. And He refused to let His chosen one walk willingly back into captivity. This wasn't a rebuke. This was a rescue mission. This wasn't rejection. This was intervention. God blocked the door before you walked through it, and called it betrayal only because He needed to shake your spirit hard enough to wake it up. You didn't betray Him by action. You betrayed Him by direction. You took one step backward and heaven shook the ground to turn you back around. That is divine protection. That is fierce love. That is a God who refuses to let you downgrade your destiny because a moment of loneliness made the past look safe. He is not punishing you. He is protecting you from the version of you that couldn't survive what's coming next. Chosen one, this is the part nobody wants to admit, yet heaven refuses to let you skip. You allowed someone access to you that God never approved. You handed spiritual authority to a person who was only supposed to be a lesson, not a lifeline. You elevated someone emotionally, mentally, or spiritually into a position they were never qualified for. And heaven watched as you let someone touch parts of your soul they were not anointed to handle. That is why God said, "You betrayed me," not because you loved, but because you placed someone above the voice that was guiding you. You listened to someone who fed your wounds more than your purpose. You trusted someone who activated your fears more than your faith. You chose human reassurance over divine instruction. You gave loyalty where God gave warnings. And every time your spirit whispered, "Stop," you silenced it because your heart wanted to keep going. You weren't betraying God by loving a person. You were betraying God by ignoring the discernment He gave you. He saw manipulation where you saw potential. He saw deception where you saw connection. He saw danger where you saw comfort. You didn't see it, but heaven saw everything. The conversations behind your back, the intentions hidden behind kindness, the jealousy hiding behind concern, the access they were taking but never honoring. God said, "You betrayed me because you handed influence to someone whose hands were not clean. And heaven had to yank them out of your life violently because you wouldn't have let them go gently." Listen closely. This wasn't heartbreak. This was spiritual surgery. This wasn't rejection. This was purification. This wasn't loss. This was God taking the counterfeit away before the real blessing arrives. You weren't wrong for loving. You were wrong for giving divine-level access to someone who never earned covenant-level trust. That is why the separation hurt so deeply. That is why the confrontation felt so sharp. That is why God's correction felt like thunder. Because He is preparing you for something so holy, so heavy, so destiny-filled, that He cannot allow unassigned people to walk into your next chapter. Heaven isn't punishing you. Heaven is protecting the future version of you who finally understands your worth. Now God is saying, pull your power back. Reclaim your spirit. Close every door I told you to close. And never again let counterfeit energy sit where a promise is supposed to sit. Chosen one, this is where everything breaks open. This is where heaven stops speaking gently and starts declaring your verdict. God said, "You betrayed me, not to destroy you, but to resurrect you." Because the version of you that betrayed heaven was the version built from wounds, fear, survival, overgiving, loneliness, and spiritual exhaustion. That version cannot enter your destiny. That version cannot carry your crown. That version cannot sit on the throne God has been building in silence. So God confronted you not to condemn you, but to kill the version of you that was killing you. And now the shift begins. Heaven has officially taken the training wheels off your soul. You are stepping into a territory where your old coping mechanisms cannot survive. You are stepping into a reality where your old attachments cannot enter. You are stepping into a frequency where your old self will suffocate. God didn't say, "You betrayed me," because He's angry. He said it because your spirit was betraying you. You were betraying your anointing, your calling, your worth, your power, your identity. And heaven said, "No more." This is the moment your entire timeline realigns. This is the moment heaven reclaims your name. This is the moment every counterfeit loses access. This is the moment your spirit snaps back into divine position. You can feel it, the weight lifting, the fog clearing, the old chains breaking at the root. That tightness in your chest? Gone. That confusion in your mind? Evelyn. That guilt in your heart? Lifted. Because God is not finished with you. He's just beginning. What you thought was punishment was actually preparation. What you thought was correction was actually crowning. What you thought was loss was actually liberation. Heaven didn't confront you to break you. Heaven confronted you to claim you. You are stepping into your next season cleansed, awakened, sharpened, untouchable. And from this moment on, every step you take carries the authority of someone who knows. I am chosen. I am restored. I am back in alignment. And nothing can stop what God is about to do in my life.